Chloe Michael, a 34-year-old wildlife photographer from Brazil, had been living alone in the remote Annapurna region of the Himalayas for nearly 7 weeks. 2 years earlier, her husband had died in a sudden accident, and in the aftermath she had thrown herself into extreme, isolated fieldwork, chasing danger and distance to dull the ache he left behind. She knew these mountains well. The narrow, crumbling cliff roads no longer frightened her. One frigid October afternoon, Chloe parked her Toyota Jeep on a windswept plateau nearly 14,000 feet above sea level and set up her camera to photograph the sun sinking behind jagged peaks, bathing them in gold and rose. When she returned 2 hours later, twilight had turned the world blue, and that was when she heard it. A sound so faint she nearly ignored it. A thin, broken whimper. Chloe crouched and looked beneath the Jeep. Wedged near the rear axle was a snow leopard cub, no bigger than a house cat. His silver-gray coat was dulled with dust and streaked with dried blood. Ice-blue eyes locked onto hers. His paws were torn raw, pads split and bleeding. He trembled with exhaustion but did not flee. He only watched her. And Chloe understood. Snow leopard cubs do not approach humans. To see one at all was rare. To find one hiding beneath her vehicle was impossible unless something was terribly wrong. She spoke softly as she worked, her movements slow and deliberate. The cub did not hiss or struggle. When she eased him free with a blanket, the damage became clear: severe dehydration, ruined paws, and total exhaustion. Yet his gaze held no fear, only urgency. She brought him into the Jeep and gave him water. He drank desperately. As she cleaned his wounds, he flinched but never tried to escape. Then she noticed something else. The cub kept turning toward the mountains, staring at one specific point, calling softly but insistently. Chloe followed his gaze. Snow and stone. Nothing more. A realization settled cold in her chest. What if the cub wasn't lost? What if he had come for her? That night, inside her heated tent, Chloe lay awake as the cub slept beside her. Snow leopards ranged across hundreds of square kilometers. Mothers taught their young to avoid humans at all costs. Then she remembered the yak. 3 days earlier, she had freed a calf trapped by an avalanche while its mother watched nearby. The work had taken hours, but it had saved them both. Snow leopards hunted yaks. A mother and cub could have witnessed that rescue. This cub was far too young to survive alone. If he had run until his paws were destroyed, there was only one explanation. His mother couldn't come. Chloe looked down at him. "Your mother is in trouble, isn't she?" His eyes opened in the darkness, and the answer was there. At dawn, Chloe made a decision that could kill her. She chose to trust him. After feeding him dried meat from her emergency rations, she set him outside the tent. He limped forward, then stopped and looked back, waiting. Chloe grabbed her pack rope, climbing gear, flares, medical supplies, and followed. The trek was brutal: knife-edged ridges, frozen streams, shattered rock. The altitude burned her lungs despite her conditioning. The cub stopped often, not just to rest, but to check that she was still behind him. When danger loomed, he vocalized. A wild animal was guiding her. After 6 punishing hours, they entered a narrow valley. The cub froze and cried out. An answer came deep, powerful, fading. They found her. A vertical stone crevice split the rock face. 4 meters below, trapped inside, was the mother snow leopard. She was wedged sideways, shoulders too broad to escape, paws scraping uselessly against smooth stone. Starved. Injured. Still magnificent. When her golden eyes met Chloe, instinct flared rage, fear, then recognition. This was the same human. The one who had saved the yak. Chloe understood the choice instantly. Leaving meant death for both mother and cub. Staying might mean her own. She chose. She worked fast and precisely, anchoring ropes, testing knots, building a harness strong enough to lift a leopard. The cub watched without moving. Then Chloe clipped in and descended. The crevice swallowed her. The cold deepened. The leopard breathing echoed around her, slow, strained. Up close, the damage was undeniable. Twisted leg, bloodied claws, ribs visible beneath thick fur. Chloe locked herself in position above the leopard, feeling the coiled power beneath starvation and pain. She removed dried meat from her pack and tossed it down. The leopard snatched it midair and swallowed. Then another. Then another. With each piece, the edge of aggression dulled, not gone, but softened. Now came the most dangerous moment. Chloe had to move within striking distance. Close enough to touch her, close enough to die. Holding the harness where the leopard could see it, Chloe spoke softly and without pause. "This will help you. Your son brought me here. He trusts me. Please, trust me too." And then she lowered herself closer. She could see individual whiskers. Count the rosettes. Watch the pulse in the leopard throat. Smell wild musk mixed with blood and fear. And still, the leopard waited. The cat held Chloe's gaze without blinking, pupils widening and contracting as she evaluated the strange human who had descended into her stone trap. Slowly, Chloe extended the harness. The webbing swayed faintly in the narrow space. The leopard tracked its movement with lethal focus. Muscles bunched beneath scarred fur. For one terrifying heartbeat, Chloe was certain the cat would explode, that the rescue would end in blood. Then the leopard did something she would carry with her forever. She dipped her head, just a fraction, barely perceptible, yet unmistakable. Consent. Trust. Chloe's hand shook as she eased the loop over the leopard head. Ears flattened, lips peeled back, teeth built to shatter bone, but she did not strike. She did not recoil. Chloe worked the straps over the powerful neck and beneath the front legs, speaking constantly. The only sounds were their breathing and the distant cries of the cub echoing above. The harness had to be secure enough to distribute weight, yet loose enough to allow the leopard to breathe. Chloe adjusted it with fingers numbed by cold and adrenaline. To fasten the final strap, she had to reach around the leopard torso. For one endless moment, her face hovered inches from the cat's massive shoulder, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her body, to hear the low rumble in her chest. A single snap of those jaws could have ended her life. But the leopard remained still. Every muscle in Chloe's body quivered as she suppressed instincts demanding violence. This wasn't confusion or hunger, it was a decision. Somewhere beyond instinct, the leopard recognized that Chloe was trying to save her. She chose trust. Chloe clipped the harness closed and retreated, ascending to give the leopard space. Only when she was several meters above did she release the breath she had been holding. Her body shook violently, nausea rolling through her. She had just fitted a harness onto a wild snow leopard and lived. Below, the leopard shifted, testing the restraint. Panic never came. Instead, the mother settled, releasing a sound that might have been relief. Chloe called up, voice unsteady. "I'm attaching the rope now. We're almost there." Speaking steadied her pulse. She clipped the main climbing rope to the harness, checked it again, and climbed the final stretch to daylight. Emerging from the crevice felt like being born again. The sunlight was blinding. Her knees nearly buckled. The cub rushed to her side, pressing against her legs, eyes full of silent questions. Is she coming? Is she safe? There was no time to answer. Chloe sprinted to the pulley system, threading the rope through the mechanical advantage she had constructed. 50 kilograms of terrified predator hung below her. She planted her boots against the rock, gripped the rope, and pulled. The line snapped tight. Anchors groaned. The pulley screamed. Nothing moved. She shifted, braced herself, and pulled again with everything she had. This time movement. Only inches. But it was enough. Again and again, she hauled. Muscles screaming, hands burning through thick gloves, sweat soaking her despite the cold. Rest meant failure. Failure meant death. From below came a fractured blend of growl and cry. Fear. Disorientation. Pain. The voice of a wild creature lifted from a prison, trusting a species she had been born to fear. Chloe wanted to speak but had no breath to spare. Her world shrank to the rope, the agony in her muscles, the relentless pull. Nothing else existed. Then impossibly the leopard head emerged. Golden eyes wide with shock and disbelief met Chloe across the gap. The mother clawed desperately at the rim, Paws finally finding purchase, but the opening remained too narrow. Her shoulders were trapped. She needed more. Chloe needed to give more. She tied off the rope quickly and leaned over the edge. Come on. You can do it. Push with your back legs. The leopard gaze locked onto Chloe's face. Something passed between them, a shared understanding of desperation, resolve, and the raw need to survive and return to family. The leopard braced her hind legs and pushed. Chloe ran back, released the tie off, and pulled with a cry torn from her chest, pure effort, raw defiance of failure. The pulley shrieked. The anchor rope creaked. Then the leopard surged upward, strength exploding as Chloe pull and the mother push combined. The massive cat burst free and crashed onto the rocky ground in a storm of dirt and stone, For a single heartbeat, time froze. The leopard lay on her side, chest heaving, ribs pumping violently. Eyes closed. She did not move. Chloe stood frozen, rope clenched in torn hands, unable to tell if the cat was injured, unconscious, or gathering herself to attack. Silence was unbearable. Then the cub moved. Rigid at first, stunned. Now he broke the stillness, racing forward with a cry of pure relief. His small body slammed into his mother's side, wrenching a grunt from her chest. That contact awakened her. Her eyes flew open. She lifted her head and saw her son. The sound she made was unforgettable, not a roar, not a growl, but something deeper. Recognition, relief, love, voiced by a creature who had believed she would never see her cub again. She wrapped him in one massive foreleg, crushing him against her chest, and began grooming him with frantic urgency. Her rough tongue swept over his face and body, confirming through scent and touch that he was real, that this was not a hunger-born illusion. The cub answered with sounds Chloe had never heard before, thin, broken keening that carried 3 days of fear and separation. He pressed into his mother fur, kneading her chest with trembling paws. If leopards could weep, he was weeping. He was home. He was safe. That was everything. Chloe stepped back quietly, tears blurring her vision. She did not interrupt. This moment belonged to them. Her legs gave out as she reached her scattered gear and collapsed onto the rocks. The adrenaline crash hit hard. Her body shook uncontrollably. She stared at her hands, gloves shredded, palms raw and bleeding from the rope. She hadn't felt a thing while pulling. There had been no space for pain. She looked back at the leopard's mother and son tangled in silver fur and desperate affection, and the tears came freely. Exhaustion, relief, all beyond words. She had climbed into that crevice knowing it might kill her, fully aware one wrong move could end her life, and she had done it anyway. Because a wild cub with ice blue eyes had trusted her enough to run 15 miles on bleeding paws to find her. Somehow beyond instinct, that cub had known the human who saved a yak mother would save his own. Against every rule written by evolution, it had worked. Trust had been offered, accepted, given back in full. What had been broken was whole again. Chloe remained seated among the snow and stone, letting the weight of it all sink deep into her body. This was more than a rescue. She had witnessed something that defied instinct and expectation, a wild creature choosing faith over terror, a mother lowering her guard because her cub had shown her this human was different. Safe. Eventually, she pushed herself to her feet, every muscle protesting. From her pack, she removed strips of dried meat and laid them on a flat rock 15 meters from the leopards. Beside it, she placed a container of water. Then she moved farther away 30 meters and began pitching her tent. She wasn't leaving. Not yet. She would stay until the mother was strong enough to hunt again, protect her cub, reclaim her rightful place as ruler of these mountains. As Chloe drove tent stakes into the frozen earth, a familiar sensation crept over her, the unmistakable awareness of being watched. She turned. The mother leopard observed her, the cub tucked close, but the golden eyes never left Chloe. Their gazes locked. Something tightened inside Chloe's chest, something without language. It wasn't gratitude. Wild animals didn't frame the world that way. But it was recognition. A silent exchange of respect between two mothers who had fought with everything for what they loved most. Chloe inclined her head. The leopard ears twitched once. Then she turned back to her cub, wrapping her body around him, sealing him inside warmth and protection, and the promise they would never be torn apart again. That night, the valley was assaulted by a savage storm. Wind howled like a living force, flinging snow sideways across the peaks. Inside her tent, Chloe curled tight in her sleeping bag as the fabric shuddered with every gust. Her breath clouded the air. Between bursts of wind, she could hear the mountain itself, enormous, enraged, alive. Her thoughts returned again and again to the leopards. The mother was still recovering. The cub impossibly small. Had she saved them only to lose them to the storm? There was nothing she could do but hope. Snow leopards were born for this world of ice and stone. They survived where nothing else could. They were ghosts. Morning arrived, transformed. Fresh snow blanketed everything, piling into drifts that reached Chloe's knees. The sky burned an unreal, high-altitude blue. Sunlight shattered across the snow, dazzling and fierce. She opened her tent and looked toward where the leopards had been. For one terrifying second, there was nothing. Then the snow moved. A silver-gray head rose, shaking loose a spray of glittering powder. The mother stood and stretched, her body flowing with returned strength. Relief struck Chloe so hard she had to grip the tent pole. Moments later, the cub erupted from beneath his mother, plunging into snowdrifts nearly his own height. He leapt, tumbled, pounced, attacked her flicking tail, joy in its purest form. The mother watched with calm, patient eyes. Chloe smiled, exhaustion and cold forgotten. The cub vitality told her everything she needed to know they would survive. When she was certain they were stable, Chloe placed another offering of dried meat on the flat rock. She laughed softly when she saw the earlier food gone, the water container polished clean by rough tongues. The mother observed from a greater distance, around 40 meters away. Her stance no longer bristled with fear. Weariness lingered, but it had softened into wary tolerance, perhaps even the beginnings of respect. Over the next 2 days, Chloe witnessed what almost no human ever does: the intimate, hidden life of a snow leopard family. She watched the mother instruct her cub in survival, breaking snow to reach pikas, using forelegs to shatter ice. The cub attacked each task with enthusiasm but little skill, often tumbling headfirst into holes. He emerged dusted in snow, whiskers frosted, eyes wide with comic surprise, making Chloe laugh. The mother was endlessly patient. When he failed, she showed him again, slowly, deliberately, how to listen beneath the snow, how to align the body, how to strike without wasting strength. These lessons were life itself, and she taught them with gravity that moved Chloe deeply. On the 3rd day, the cub made his first true kill, a small rodent. The mother pride was unmistakable. She pressed her nose to his head and released a low rumble of approval. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. That evening, as Chloe heated water for tea, the mother approached the camp, not close, stopping 15 meters away. The cub stayed pressed against her side. Together, they sat in the snow and looked at Chloe. 3 gazes met in the fading light. Ancient gold eyes, ice, blue eyes, and human eyes brimming with awe. The wind stilled. The world held its breath. The mother made a sound, not a growl, not a call, but a soft chuff. A sound shared between family, between those who were trusted. Chloe recognized it instantly. It bypassed thought and struck something deep and wordless. "I see you." With shaking hands, Chloe set down her cup and answered with her own imperfect imitation, filled with sincerity. "I see you too. I will remember." The leopard ears flicked forward. After one last moment, she rose and disappeared into the dark, her cub following close. Just before vanishing, the cub glanced back once. Chloe barely slept that night. She knew it had been a farewell. By morning, the valley confirmed it. The leopards were gone. Only tracks remained, large prints, beside smaller ones leading into slopes no human could follow. She packed slowly, body aching, hands raw, heart heavy with gratitude and grief. The descent was punishing, the road buried beneath ice and snow. By the time she reached the village, she was running on instinct alone. At the lodge, Devi, the elderly Nepali woman who owned it, took one look at Chloe and asked nothing. She brought hot food, steaming tea, and a bed. Chloe slept for 16 hours. The days afterward felt unreal. She backed up her files obsessively, filled her journal with words the camera could never hold: the fear, the trust, the cub cries, the weight of the mother gaze. She told no one the full truth. Some things were too sacred for explanation. Weeks passed. Life moved on. Yet part of her never left that valley. 4 months later, on a gray February morning, Chloe made a choice. She would go back one last time. She told herself it was for work. Yet beneath every justification, she understood the truth. She came back because she needed something only this place could give. Somewhere deep inside, hope lingered that she had not been erased from their memory. She set up camp in the same valley where she had dragged the injured mother from the crevice. As dusk fell and the temperature plunged, she lit a small fire, not out of necessity, but for comfort, for the ancient instinct to hold back darkness with flame. Then she waited. Before sunrise, she woke to a pale sky. Snow had fallen overnight, draping the valley in untouched white. And there, less than 10 meters from her tent, were tracks. Fresh, crisp-edged, unmistakably snow leopard, a mother and her young. Her pulse roared as her mind grasped for rational explanations. It could be any pair, she told herself. Territories overlapped, but logic drowned beneath certainty. She knew, beside the tracks, on the same flat rock where she had left food months ago, rested half a marmot, its body still warm. The kill was deliberate, purposeful. The meaning was unmistakable. It was an offering. Chloe sank to her knees, unaware of the cold. Tears burned and froze along her cheeks. She spoke aloud her thanks for remembrance, for survival, for the way her life had been altered. She didn't need them to hear. She felt them. She remained there for hours before rising on stiff, numb legs. She would not take the marmot. It wasn't meant to be used. Leaving it untouched was her reply. Chloe stayed in the valley 3 more days, photographing the landscape and its quieter inhabitants, never once catching sight of the leopards. On the 3rd day, she returned from a hike to find the marmot gone. In its place were fresh tracks and a single, deep snow leopard paw print, a mark, a signature. She photographed it from every angle before the wind could claim it, her hand shaking. This was the closure she hadn't known she needed. Proof that what had been forged in danger had not faded. The next morning, she dismantled her camp and began the long walk back to her jeep. Before leaving, she stopped to take in the valley one final time. She thought of the years she had buried herself and worked to outrun grief, and of how a small cub with ice-blue eyes had bridged the impossible divide between worlds. As she descended the mountain, she glanced into her rearview mirror. There, poised atop a boulder at the edge of the drop, stood a silver-gray figure, etched against the sky. Too distant for detail, too far for certainty. But she knew. The mother leopard watched for a long moment, then vanished into shadow and untamed freedom. Chloe drove on, tears blurring her vision, her heart fuller than it had been in years. Some gifts defy explanation. Some bonds cross boundaries. And somewhere high in the world, most unforgiving mountains, 2 snow leopards carried the memory of a human who had helped when help should never have existed. And they remembered her, just as she would remember them for the rest of her life.